Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Airspeed Reads Naruto video. This one's going to be for volume 15 of the manga, which is called Naruto's Ninja Handbook. And this is our 3-in-1 volume kind of cover page for this volume. Interesting image of Naruto, nothing overly fancy worth talking about, but yeah. We cover another 9 chapters, 127 to 135, to feel alive, exceeding one's limits, to hurt, love, the name Gaara, the two, darkness and light, those who are strong, Naruto's Ninja Handbook, and the Gale-like battle. Good volume, we get basically the whole Gaara Sasuke fight. We get some flashback, very important flashback stuff about Gaara, both his young life, basically kind of explaining why he is the way he is, plus I suppose the importance of the flashback scene to when Gaara met with Kakashi and Sasuke just before the Chunin exams, like the kind of importance of that, and kind of just the reason why both are so intent on fighting each other, Gaara and Sasuke. Then basically that transitions into Naruto versus Gaara, which is basically the whole end of the volume. I think what I like the most about the volume overall is how for Sasuke and Naruto, like their whole kind of character arcs, like the whole theme of like how this ninja world has kind of created all of these characters in terms of the way they are. That, Sasuke the Avenger versus like Naruto and Gaara, who are like two sides of the same coin, where they've had very similar kind of upbringings, both being, as we later find out, Jinchuriki, kids with monsters inside them, and the way people treat them and how they feel about it, and that Naruto could have been in Gaara's position, Gaara could have been in Naruto's position if they took a different path in their life. Obviously one choosing to, kill to feel alive, the other choosing to, emphasize, seek out the people who actually care about him. And I really like how they did that, and just emphasizing that aspect of all of the characters. This was a slight negative in that there's a whole volume here where we just don't touch on the Sarutobi Orochimaru fight. That's just not touched on here. But some big important stuff happens towards the end of the volume, so it's definitely a good volume for sure. And so the start of this volume is effectively just this idea of why Sasuke and Gaara are fighting, and it comes down to the whole idea of they have the same type of eyes that know isolation, real solitude. The main comparison between all three of these characters that basically are involved in the fight here. They all know what it means to be alone and not really just be part of the whole group. Sasuke is slightly different from the other two, but you get that idea, and that the two of them are so competitive with each other because they want to prove themselves against someone who's very similar to them. Talented shinobi who have been through a lot of similar stuff, and Gaara is basically like, this has to be a death match between us. And yeah, the fight is quite basic here. We have Gaara continuing his transformation into Shukaku, and basically Sasuke, the only move that he has that can really damage Gaara like this is Chidori, and we get the explanation for, I suppose, the limits on that as a technique. Kakashi can use it 4 times a day, and after that he's basically wrecked, all of his chakras gone. Sasuke, being still fairly young, can only use it twice, and we get this idea that he used it once during the actual exam part of the fight. He's used it once already here, and he kind of needs to use it again. So we get a flashback to training and what happens when he actually tries to use it like that, and we just get this idea that because to use Chidori effectively you have to use the Sharingan, plus it's a very powerful technique, and because it's so powerful, both of those drain your chakra drastically. So if you try to do a third one, it won't start, but if you try and force it, you basically, hints at, you would, kill yourself, but especially for you shouldn't even attempt to do it. And the implication we sort of know is because the sealing jutsu on the curse mark that Kakashi put on Sasuke is kind of powered by Sasuke's will to resist the curse mark. So if his chakra's like all drained and he tries to do it again, of course the curse mark's going to break out and kind of take over. And we know that kind of the idea of the curse mark is that it helps and kind of emphasizes the darker parts of Sasuke's character, and we see that here when he uses it again and does kind of injure Gaara, but the curse mark is coming out. And it's a big moment in the fight because he's so drained of chakra that he just collapses. Gaara has weathered the storm of all these Chidoris, but is still in the fight. And Gaara's about to win until Naruto arrives. And I think this is a moment where the anime just flat out works better, because Naruto's arrival, the defeat of Sasuke, it has the music, it has the tension of the scene, whereas here it's just, okay, like, Sasuke's curse mark has come out, he sort of collapses, Gaara's still up, then you just turn the page up, there's Naruto kicking Gaara in the face, and it doesn't have the impact of just like, oh, Naruto's here, the different fight is on. Admittedly, that it's for a reason, in that it takes a little bit for the fight to actually get going, in that we have Gaara's flashback before then, we have Naruto reflecting on how kind of afraid he is of Gaara and how similar they are, and then, you know, the core of him, Naruto fighting for his friends, being kind of what drives him to actually fight, you know, bravely against Gaara. So I think it lacks a little bit of impact because once Naruto arrives, they have to have character development of him kind of convincing himself to really be invested in the fight. Because before that, he's basically just prepared to run. Like, we got to get out of here, and we can't beat him. He is literally a monster, and Naruto can see that. And the key there is just that just before we go into the flashback, Naruto is kind of hesitating. Sasuke is still out of it, obviously, and Sakura jumps in the way of an attack by Gaara, and she gets smashed up against a wall. He kind of takes her out of the picture, and we start to see that Gaara's having these kind of flashes of this person that we don't know of just yet, and he can't understand why someone would protect someone. And just as we go into the flashback, he kind of has a kind of headache moment and remembers what Sakura just did, and then what Guy did protecting Lee during Gaara's fight with Lee. And we go into the very important Gaara flashback scene here, where we get basically the way people treated him when he was young. You know, I suppose the equivalent scene of a lot of the little flashback moments we've had of Naruto. But for Gaara, it's less that people kind of blamed Naruto for like the Ninetales thing and thought he was the monster. I don't think anyone was like, there was an element of fear around him for sure, but it's not the same level of fear with Gaara, because there is an instability to Gaara that, because of Shukaku and that personality, that Gaara has actually killed people. So there's a slight difference in it, but fundamentally it's the same kind of ideal that they're going for, that Gaara wants to have friends and like gives the ball back to these young kids, but when they just refuse to kind of in any way communicate with him, except the little bit of kindness he's just shown them, he doesn't really know what to do and just kind of reaches out and uses the sand kind of almost accidentally, but you can see that, you know, he's not the sort of character right now who fully understands all of this stuff. And you really begin to see the negativity of the way he was raised here, in that this new character, Yoshimaru, comes in and protects the kids from being hurt, potentially killed. And we very quickly get this idea that Gaara doesn't know what it is to hurt. He basically doesn't know the definition of pain, what the word hurt means. And he tries to kind of injure himself, but the sand obviously is automatic and it protects him. And Yoshimaru is revealed to be a medical ninja, and he's basically saying, look, I'm in charge of you, I don't want you to hurt yourself. And we get into the idea of just Gaara very like innocently asking Yoshimaru, what does it mean to be hurt? And do you hate me? And he basically just tries to give Gaara the lesson of like what kind of like love is key, and so on. But the thing I think people always remember is obviously that I'm beginning to understand what it means to hurt. I have a pain right here, not like a rib pain or like chest pain, but a pain of the heart, like an emotional pain. And he doesn't know what that is yet. And Yoshimaru then changes up his kind of tactics and just puts a little cut in his finger and kind of explains that, this is a physical pain. It can heal very easily. It bleeds, it appears to be super painful, but it's not really. Pains of the heart, though, those are wounds of the heart, is the exact quote, are extremely slow to heal. The only thing that can heal them is love. And just how this whole flashback links that all together, what the marking on Gaara's forehead is, it's the symbol for love, but the confused way in which he carved it into his forehead, in that, he basically is told, your mother, even though she's dead, loved you. That to some extent, Yoshimaru feels that the sand protecting Gaara is the will of Gaara's mother. And we get this idea that even before Gaara was born, he had the Shukaku sand spirit implanted in him. And he was obviously, when he was born, Yoshimaru's sister, so his uncle is Yoshimaru, died. And I think, part of that you can definitely put down to the fact that, it was probably the Shukaku sand spirit that's the kind of key thing that killed the mother, more so than Gaara in any way trying to blame it on him. But you see that he's kind of, he's trying here. He goes back to the kids he injured earlier on, wants to give them some kind of ointment, but they just still refuse to do anything there. On the way back, he ends up kind of killing someone, because he's angry about what happened. That why won't this person accept this little bit of kindness? And so when he sees someone on the way home looking at him with the look that, people don't agree with your existence, it kind of angers him, and he ends up killing them. And we see Gaara and his father kind of talk a little bit, just a little look actually, and then we quickly get an assassination attempt. And this is a huge, really important moment, and it's shocking in the anime. It's shocking here in how sudden it is. Like, compared the shock of this assassin being revealed to be Yoshimaru versus Naruto appearing out of nowhere. Like, one doesn't have any impact, one has all of the impact. And this is a big scene. Gaara defends himself and fights back, and injures his assailant and takes off the mask, and it is Yoshimaru, and he is trying to kill Gaara under the orders of Gaara's father, Kazekage. We knew that before, that the Kazekage had ordered all these assassination attempts, but seeing one in action here, the one person who I suppose Gaara felt actually cared about him, just tried to kill him, and it's this devastating kind of blow to him that he just can't understand that, like, why would you ever do this? And he basically says, my orders kind of came first, and Yoshimaru talks about how, you were watched over and guarded over as an experiment. He became, in Gaara's father's mind, he became too dangerous for the village, so they created him to be this way, and now want nothing of him. It's a really kind of tragic story, and Gaara's trying to find a little bit of light in this whole situation, in that, like, you didn't have a choice, did you? You had to do this. That's the only way he can kind of comprehend what this situation actually means. And when Yoshimaru then explains that, no, that's not entirely true, I also felt like I kind of had to. I resented you. I blame you for kind of killing my sister. And, he then tries to explain to him that, like, in my opinion, my sister never loved you. She just cursed you, and that's what your name means, to love only yourself, fight only for yourself. And that's basically where Gaara's whole ideal comes from, the only caring about himself and killing others to kind of exist. And that's what the whole love carved into his forehead means. And it's a really powerful flashback. I think it works really well, especially with ultimately where Gaara goes as a character, to see him really make that shift from the kid who was unstable because of the monster inside him, but from that character to the one that we see now, who is completely unstable and you don't really see any sort of good in, to ultimately the very calm character who we get much later on in the series. Um, but yeah, so Naruto, we cut back away from that, and we get this idea that just Sasuke can't get back into the fight. He wants to protect Sakura, but he can't. Naruto obviously is hesitating this whole time. Why, after all of this training, why am I not, strong? Why am I not jumping into this fight? What's wrong with me? And he takes all these hits. We focus on it for a good while of just Naruto getting beaten up. Eventually, Gaara continues to shift further and further into Shukaku form. The tail comes out. His whole body basically almost is covered. And the key moment is Naruto reflecting on how similar he and Gaara are. That, the solitary eyes comes back. He's just like me. He has a monster inside him. So do I. And he understands kind of what Gaara must have been through because they are so similar. They are very much purposefully meant to be, light and darkness, two sides of the same coin. And, he kind of reflects on this idea of, like, I could have gone down that path if I didn't, highly emphasize the support of people like Iruka, like Sasuke, like Sakura, Kakashi. I would have been the exact same as Gaara because, to some extent, I resented all of the villagers for looking at me that way and so on. But he got out of it because he wasn't alone anymore. And, there's some really nice imagery here where we get the kind of like mirror effect for like Naruto's looking in a mirror, but in the mirror is Gaara, and it's really cool symbolism. And just this idea that Naruto fundamentally fights for his friends and fights to get those people, protect those bonds that he has, whereas Gaara fights only for himself, which is the way Naruto kind of would have gone down. You can sort of see that at the start of the series. You kind of look back on it and like him trying to get attention by performing all these pranks was a kind of selfish kind of thing to do. That like he's just doing this to get this for himself rather than really focusing on getting these kind of bonds with other people. And eventually, we see him begin to fight back to try and protect Sakura, and he ends up using his summoning jutsu one time, and I like how he summons obviously the small frog Gamakichi first, and various other things happen. Like it's a really big fight, a lot of impressive moves going on. I really like the callback during the fight to the bell test, where obviously Kakashi used the 1,000 Years of Death maneuver on Naruto, and he does the same move on Gaara, but he uses a exploding kunai, a kunai with a kind of explosive tag attached, and it's a really devastating maneuver, but everyone's kind of like, that was really clever, but the insane amount of chakra you have to use to deliver that blow was pretty crazy, because he used like Shadow Clone Jutsu like 5 times in that maneuver just to get one attack in. And you see little moments here, like when Naruto's kind of staying in the fight, he's doing some damage. Sasuke's kind of quite impressed, but he's kind of saying, like, you have to save Sakura, because there's a really important moment, I think, from Sasuke here. He says, "I've already lost everything once before. I don't ever want to watch my precious comrades die in front of me again." And they do a really interesting flashback back to the Haku Zabuza arc, where obviously Sasuke blocked Naruto from being injured by Haku's Senbon, and he reflects that this is the key thing of Kakashi. I'll never ever let my comrades die, and that Sasuke is continuing to do that. Sakura was willing to protect the people as well, and now Naruto has to do the exact same thing here. He has to protect the people precious to him, and then he can become as strong as he needs to be. That was the whole thing that he talked about with Haku, and really nice the way they reflect on kind of everything in the series before now to lead up to this moment of Naruto having his, he had his big moment against Neji, of course, but this is kind of beyond that. This is the fight that, like, no one ever expected Naruto to be able to in any way face up against Gaara, but he's about to do that here. And the first kind of big attack is obviously the multiple shadow clone jutsu, where he does his kind of 2,000 clones, and this is amazingly impressive. You can see that the art is kind of like, oh no, I have to draw so many Narutos just to get this technique across. But everyone's shocked by this because they've never seen this many shadow clones. And it's been very clever that Kishimoto hasn't used this technique a lot. Like, he's had Naruto do 5 clones here or there, maybe 10 at the absolute maximum. But the 100+ version of the technique, he's very much kept that to a minimum. Like the very first chapter, and here is basically that. And as we get into the final couple of chapters of this volume, the key bits that you get here are just Sasuke being impressed that Naruto is able to kind of protect him, that he trusts Naruto enough to be able to fight fairly evenly against Gaara, but that Naruto is performing moves that are kind of outclassing Sasuke, and he's shocked that this is happening, that he can't believe that Naruto can summon that many clones, that he can use all of these, techniques in so many crazy ways. Like, he does the Naruto 2K Uzumaki Barrage. The translation here is Naruto's 2,000 Blows Barrage, which is a decent translation. And yeah, just after this attack, the possession is complete. Basically, we get full on Shukaku coming out. Really nice image on the page here when we see the kind of transformation basically complete. Really well done, and just, you think Naruto is about to lose the fight here, that Gaara's just won. Then Naruto summons Gamabunta again, and it's another incredible move from Naruto just a couple of pages after the last one, and it's just a further thing that kind of shows Sasuke how much Naruto has progressed. And they refer to Gamakichi again, and that, okay, Naruto, you protected Gamakichi. Gamakichi kind of stands up for Naruto a little bit here and says, that sand spirit was bullying me, pa. And Gamabunta agrees to fight on behalf of Naruto here, and we just get this insane fight, the kind of likes of which we've never seen before, that these two beings, Gamabunta and Shukaku at full size, just eclipse the landscape. They're taller than the tall trees by a huge amount. The attacks are basically destroying the landscape, shaping things. It gives you an insight into, I suppose, how deadly the Ninetales attack on the Hidden Leaf Village, the key moment that kind of starts off the series, actually was, kind of seeing these two kind of equally kind of sized creatures go at it. And just really interesting kind of how it goes here. You get Gamabunta actually explaining how exactly the possession is working, and that the people under the possession of Shukaku basically can't sleep soundly. So Gaara basically suffers from continuous insomnia. He never sleeps because if he does sleep, he will be completely consumed by Shukaku, and basically Shukaku kind of forces him to do this art of playing possum jutsu that kind of forces him to go to sleep, and Shukaku completely takes over. So, this fight here is effectively, Gamabunta against the one-tailed beast here. And we get some incredible wind-style jutsu, wind bullets, and just incredible. You get water-style from Gamabunta, the liquid bullets, and just really, really impressive stuff here, where we're starting to see huge attacks from these kind of animal creatures, just giving you an idea how powerful everything is. Ultimately, the end of the volume kind of comes when Gamabunta can't really get a grip on Shukaku because his kind of toad hands aren't suited to kind of grappling with someone. So he basically says, okay, Naruto, you use the transformation jutsu and do a combined transformation with me. Use my size plus your skill to kind of transform me into something that can grip me. And what he does is he's trying to think about it and just nine-tailed fox. And so Gamabunta is transformed temporarily into a kind of giant fox. And this is obviously a big thing Sasuke sees. You know, finally Gamabunta has a grip on Shukaku as the volume comes to an end. The one other notable thing to definitely make note of here is that in this volume you also had the first time for Naruto getting a hint as to Sasuke's power up, and then also Sasuke getting a hint as to Naruto's power up. So because Naruto catches up with Sasuke and notices the curse mark receding just about. He there's not enough time to really talk about it, but he does see the curse mark going away, while Sasuke, as far as we're aware, doesn't know that Naruto has nine tails inside him, and sees the fox and is, I suppose, getting a little bit suspicious here. It's just really interesting that until their final battle in like volume 25, 27, or whatever it is, the two of them don't actually fully know each other's ultimate kind of powerful techniques. But yeah, really interesting. It's a very fight focused volume towards the very end. There's not a whole lot of character stuff to talk about all that much. The insomnia from Gaara is definitely an interesting one because it kind of explains why he's so unstable mentally. Because if he hasn't slept for like years potentially, of course he'd be mentally unstable and struggling in combination with like a tailed beast kind of trying to take over him. So yeah, favorite character from the volume is definitely going to be Gaara. The flashback just I think is such an interesting one because it does make you feel sympathetic for him, that you understand what he's been through, and that it's almost it's more than what Naruto has been through because of all the assassination attempts, the fact that his father was the one who kind of did this to him, in combination with the fact that his father ordered all these assassination attempts as soon as the experiment didn't work, and then just the real nice kind of bond that seemed to be there between Gaara and Yashimaru, the talk about Gaara's mother and the meaning of his name and so on, the whole thematic thing about love and so on, about pain and like pains of the heart versus pains of the body and so on. It worked really well, and then the sudden twist that one of the assassins was Yashimaru is like so shocking and like soul destroying for Gaara, that's the key moment that ultimately changes him, and it's really really well done. So Gaara, absolutely favorite character from the volume. Favorite quote from the volume, I suppose, comes from the flashback as well. It's from Yashimaru. A wound of the body certainly bleeds and can appear painful, but as time passes, the pain will fade on its own, and if one uses medicine, it will heal even faster. But what are troublesome are the wounds of the heart. They are extremely slow to heal. Wounds of the heart are a bit different. Unlike wounds of the body, there are no medicines that can help them get better, and sometimes they never heal. She says, unfortunately, it's a bothersome cure, for you can only receive it from another. Love. I really like that as the kind of core of kind of what Gaara is about, in that I suppose currently Gaara kind of thinks he's alone, but he's actually constantly around his brother and sister who do care about him, despite all the craziness that's going on with him. So, it's one of those things where, like, if he focuses on the fact that they are there and doesn't just treat them as nuisances, things can actually change for him. And so that's really important. Favorite panel, let me get to this. It's a small panel. I kind of wish Kishimoto had emphasized it a bit more. They kind of do it over the course of the whole page with all of the panels, but the top panel there, I just really like the kind of symbolism of that. It in one image kind of gets across the whole idea of how similar Naruto and Gaara are, and just makes you completely understand the importance of that Gaara Naruto fight, and why they're so similar and why it means so much. It is, the it's the same basic, they've both been through basically the similar things, and just one taking a path to focus on the positives, another taking a path to focus on the negatives, and how different they turn out in the end. So yeah, definitely a good volume. A bit overly focused on fighting and not so much the character side of things, but definitely good. Obviously, I think next volume, I assume we're going to get the more or less the end of this arc completely. But yeah, that's basically been the volume. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the volume and the review. Other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.